Hey everyone, and this is Jody Thomas, and welcome to the Dance of Surrender, where we're going to be talking about how to turn off your monkey mind, get more done, and flow effortlessly into your zone. I'm really excited to have today's guest with us. So Rosanna was introduced to me through another one of the guests who I'm going to be interviewing on this series, Susanna Kennedy, and she spoke very, very highly of her, so I was really excited to get that contact. Just to give you a little bit of a background, a story about Rosanna, she is the founder of Enjoy Yoga and Rozy Glow, and has been teaching yoga in a variety of forms since 2002. So Rosanna is a Yoga Alliance UK Senior Yoga Teacher, which is the highest level of recognition and teacher experience. And her practice is deep and challenging while at the same time inspiring and nurturing. She was originally trained in Hatha Yoga, but she's also completed Anusara Yoga training. She is primarily a specialist fertility, pregnancy, postnatal, and baby yoga teacher, and trains yoga teachers, midwives, obstetricians, and other birth professionals on behalf of Dr. Francois Friedman's organization called Birthlight. The Birthlight approach, knowledge, and wisdom underpin all of Rosanna's creations, and she is also a practicing doula who trained with Dr. Michael Odent and Liliana Lammers. Rosanna has an ongoing interest in yoga, therapeutics, and therapy through the work of Bo Forbes and Anusara, and working with yoga to ease depression, anxiety, and stress. Enjoy Yoga is a Croydon-based yoga community. Croydon is in the UK, for anyone who might not be familiar with that name, that offers yoga for all stages of life. Rosanna founded Enjoy Yoga in 2003, and she now works with a team of 9 people who receive ongoing mentoring with her. And the philosophy of her yoga is teaching from the heart and sharing what most inspires each of us as teachers. Rozy Glow is Rosanna's latest venture, a move towards yoga-based trainings, classes, retreats, and digital download products that support people to free themselves from fear-based living and support a shift towards love and faith-focused living. This has all evolved from her personal journey over the past 23 years. Rosanna Kaliabetsos is passionate about supporting people to move out of victim consciousness and into empowerment, and she's known to her clients as a fairy godmother of sorts. She teaches you to use your own magic wand and create your own fairy dust, and I really love that metaphor in there. And just to share a little known tidbit about Rozy, so you might feel like you already know her. She's really mad about unicorns, as she puts it, or as we would say, crazy about unicorns. She absolutely loves them. And also fairies, and yes, she does believe that they are real and that they exist in another dimension and communicate with her. So I'm so happy to have you here, Rozy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jody. A lovely introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's start out with what surrender means to you so that we can kind of set the base for today.
Yeah, well, surrender to me, I'm going to quote an Anusara quote, which is, surrender to me is aligning with the divine. It's really about surrendering the need to control everything out of fear, which is, the ego controlling everything, and moving into a state of grace where you're really trusting that life, first and foremost, wants to support you. It wants you to be happy. Life loves you. Life loves us all. And if we align with that truth, that it's for us, that life is about experiencing through love, through the eyes of love, then surrender to me is really about that surrender, surrendering to the highest good, surrendering to win-win situations, surrendering to loving myself and doing what's most loving for myself in any moment, knowing that is also going to take care of the other people and situations that I'm involved in a positive way.
That's wonderful. And just to kind of go a little bit deeper into something you said, and I may be interpreting this kind of wrong in the way that you're saying it, but for some reason it came to me as you were speaking that it almost sounds like when we try to control things, sometimes it's almost because we're trying to sabotage ourselves. It seemed to me like you were saying that when we surrender, we're actually moving towards the higher good. So that would indicate that perhaps, we have something in our subconscious that as we're trying to control our lives and hold on so tightly, it's almost like in a way to sabotage ourselves, to keep ourselves in old habits, to keep ourselves from really achieving what we could achieve.
Well, certainly, control is fear-based. It's part of the patriarchal paradigm of needing to control outer circumstances in order to feel safe, and that sort of gives the premise that we're not safe in the first place. And you can tie this into understanding a little about the nervous system and the fight, flight, freeze response, and the fact that, as you know, I do a lot of work with birth, so I'm of the belief that most of us have some birth trauma that we haven't worked through. And if our first experience of life is that it's not safe to be here, that it's traumatic, that it's challenging, then that is a subconscious program that is going to underpin everything in our lives. And it's either going to be, further compounded by our environmental factors as we're growing up, as we're young children, or it will be healed through repair work. But in this day and age, most of us are not being given repair work post-birth in order to heal the nervous system and to calibrate and feel safe in our bodies. So we have this predisposition to believing on a large scale, this is a big issue around the world, that we're not safe. And therefore that's a paradigm that keeps being expressed in our lives. We create dramas, we co-create dramas that will maintain that as a truth, and our eyes will look for it that way.
That's great. I love that. And so where do you think that surrender and this idea or this state of flow, which in this series I'm kind of defining that as a state in which you lose your awareness of self, your concept of time completely changes, and you perform your best both creatively and with high efficiency. So where do you think that surrender and this state of flow kind of converge?
Oh, that's simple. That's follow your bliss. Follow what most excites you in any one given moment the most. And I'm kind of borrowing a little bit from Bashar here, who anyone can look up Bashar on YouTube and you'll hear different talks. He channels, it's a guy who channels this entity, Bashar, and Bashar talks about following your greatest excitement. And if we took the example of a list of to-do things in one day, so we all have our things that we need to get through, and most of us are kind of conditioned a bit like eating food. You have to eat the bits you don't want to eat first. You have to do the things you don't want to do first in order to do the things that you most want to do next, or have the dessert after you've had the vegetables that you don't want to eat. In the same way, if you look at your to-do list, we usually will kind of look at the things that we most don't want to do and feel we need to tackle those first. Whereas if we allow ourselves to start the day with an intention to flow and to be inspired and to enjoy what we do moment to moment as much as possible, then we can look down our list and start with what we most want to do first and allow that momentum to grow, so that it's also about trusting the timing in things and trusting your higher wisdom to say, well, you're most excited to do this right now because trying to tackle this other thing, it's not quite the timing for that. And if you do that, it's going to be more complicated than if you leave it for a couple of hours or a day or so. And maybe then it will be made easier because someone will call you with a bit of information you need that you didn't have before. So if you align with what most excites you and what feels best in your heart to go with next, as much as possible within the choices you got, then that sets the tone for the day. That sets the tone for your experience. And we enter into things with a soft heart, with an expansive energy field, as opposed to feeling like we're getting ready for battle, which does not really help flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does kind of create that snowball effect. I found that if I wake up relatively early in the morning and do something that I love, so for me that would be meditate and do yoga, or maybe take a walk in nature, or do yoga outside was like the ideal for me. If I can get outside and do yoga with my feet in the grass, it changes my whole day. It gives me so much energy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's finding, we're all different. For one person, it's doing what you say, it's getting up and meditating. For another person, it's getting maybe outside and having a look at their garden. It can be so different. It can be wanting to wake up and having a cup of coffee makes you feel really happy. And I'm not here to sort of say this is good, this is bad. I'm just saying what is your mode, what makes your heart go, and let's start there. And then, as you start to listen into yourself, you'll make healthier and healthier choices for yourself. So, following your bliss evolves what your bliss is as well, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And so let's take that just one step further if we can. How does guilt play into that? Because I find that with myself, and I think others potentially as well, this idea of following my bliss, it becomes almost like a selfish thing. Like we think that, or I'll use the word I think sometimes like, oh, but I should be doing something for my partner, or I should be spending more time with my family, or something like that. So if I'm just constantly following my own bliss, what would you say to the people who have like this underlying guilt behind doing that, and so they actually find it very difficult to do that?
Yeah, the guilt is conditioning, and that conditioning can be shifted. Let's just think back that we have quite a lot of religious conditioning that we're living through. We're coming out of a patriarchal age that has been a very, very long time. And, before that, it was the matriarch that was sort of in charge, and it was a different energetic flow in how we resonated as a culture and how we resonated as a community, as humans on this planet. And what I'll say is that we have this, certainly I work with quite a lot of Christian clients and also Muslim clients, and there's quite a heavy energy around duty and around, the godly thing, the divine thing to do is to put others first. And there's a big sort of emphasis on self-sacrifice as that being the right way forward. And I don't know if I feel that might be a misrepresentation of the prophet's words, whether it's Muhammad or Jesus. I don't want to get too into that, but what I would say is that we have understood, perhaps misunderstood, the idea that it's a loving thing to put others before you, and your needs are not important. My needs are not as important as someone else's. And as a species, perhaps this is how we've perceived survival. We've talked about survival of the fittest, and then as communities, that there's a contrast there, because in one hand, if you put the whole, the collective before the individual, then you're doing what's right for the tribe rather than what you want to do in a moment. And if you are just thinking about yourself and not thinking about the consequence that you choosing something for yourself might have on others, there is a conflict there. And, let's take this into a mature arena here. We're not just saying, I'll do whatever I want whenever I want. We're talking about the fact that as I follow my bliss, as I follow my passion, I am in a more inspired and expansive state. And then I inspire others to follow their passion and to get in touch with what motivates them. Now, when we're talking about duty, I have a daughter. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I can't do what I want whenever I want because I have to put her needs first. And when she was a baby, if she needed feeding or changing or cuddling, that was an absolute, that had to be the first thing I did. But I got tremendous joy from that, and that's why I had a baby, So I think we need to look a little bit at how we perceive where we get love from. And we all have different ways where we have learned to receive love in our growing years. And some of us have learned to love through being the good child and through being dutiful and putting others first. And we've been told we're selfish if we don't. So we learn guilt around following our own passion and our own flow. And I often give the analogy of the oxygen mask. Whenever we're on an aeroplane and you go through the safety precautions, they always tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping anyone else. And the way I look at this is very much in a place that if we're empty, if we don't have oxygen or prana or connection to source, and we're doing our best to put everyone else first without having filled our own cup first, then we are in deficit, and that is going to impact us in a negative way, and it's also going to impact them. So self-care is really important, and the boundaries that we need to have to be able to say, okay, well, yeah, I do need to see my family, but I don't necessarily need to do that today because I'm not in a good place to do that. So let me get myself in a good place and let me arrange to go tomorrow. Or, it's feeling around each situation and trying to find a solution that is going to work for you first and then how it can work for everyone else. And, sometimes saying no and someone else being uncomfortable, that's part of their growth. If for you, your truth is to be able to say, actually, I cannot fit that in right now, or, that's not right for me to do right now, even if that causes some discomfort for the other people involved, then, if you were to go ahead and do it, then the results aren't going to be that great because you're not in a great place for it. So that's not flow. That's not that guilt that you're talking about, I think is also there in order for us to say, okay, am I in alignment with myself here? Because I'm trying to force myself to do something that doesn't feel right. And then you give yourself all the reasons why you should shut yourself down and do your duty and not listen to yourself. And we've been doing that to, our children. We've had it done to us, to shut ourselves down. And we're recovering from that. So I feel like those of us who are waking in consciousness and growing more conscious are starting to really see that conflict and trying to find their way through it, which is great.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to flip that around also. As I was listening to you speak, I kind of got this remembrance in my own experience that if I do put myself and the things that I need to do first, for example, when I'm now working on this telesummit, that's taking quite a bit of my time. And, if I get up and spend like 2 good, completely focused, completely concentrated hours on that, then the rest of the day I feel okay just like going with whatever happens and giving a lot more of myself, because I get like the opposite guilt thing that if I'm just giving to others all the time, I actually feel guilty that I'm not taking care of my own thing. So I think there's actually like guilt on both sides, at least for me. And so when I am able to just, spend that concentrated, focused, like inflow time, I feel so much more energetic in the day. I already felt like I was productive, and I'm much more able to give to, like, whatever anybody around me needs at that point after I've, made myself feel productive in the day. I'm much more capable of giving. So I think that that's absolutely true.
Well, exactly what you've just said. And there, we when we do give to ourselves in that way, or even like I've learned now to be much more productive in 2 hours than to force myself, because I feel that's what I have to do, to sit at my computer for 8 hours and get through as much as I can in one day. The reality is that, we need to be honest with ourselves, and guilt is a measure to look within, as is blame, as is shame. We have a birthright, one of our birthright mottos is no guilt, no blame, no shame, which you say that to any mother, she's going to look at you and roll her eyes, because, being a mum is all about guilt, blame and shame, particularly mothers. And, we're programmed to look after our young. So we, if we feel like we're neglecting that will sort of come up in our internal emotional makeup, and looking within, when we feel guilt, when we feel blame, when we feel shame, there's a need to come back in and offer some self-love and self-care. And, sleep deprivation is like the worst form of torture, and every mum to some degree is going through an extent of shifting and learning that, can I survive on less sleep, and learning to nap through the day and to make that energy up. When we're in a place where we don't have others to look after in that way, and our baby, if you like, is our creative endeavors, whether it's this webinar or whatever, whatever it is that we're, doing and creating, the higher vibration we're in, the more that we are self-caring, whether that is our meditation, our yoga practice, our knowing that we're best in the morning to do this sort of creative work, because as the day goes on, we feel more like we can't concentrate in the same way, then that's an amazing feedback to give to yourself and to work within. And putting yourself first in that way opens you up to being there more for others, because you've taken care of something that's so important for you. It's exactly what you just said. You put your own oxygen mask on first, and you get what you need first done, and then you are there for others. Massive lesson for us all.
Absolutely. And kind of going off of that, do you think, talking about this overwhelm, that a lot of people struggle? It's like this constant, it's pretty much, I see it as like the opposite of flow. When I'm doing my own thing, let's say I'm working for, my time in the morning or whatever, I go a little bit over that because I'm really like into what I'm doing, but then in the back of my mind, I feel guilty because I was supposed to be doing something else with another person, then that takes me out of my flow because I'm struggling against what's happening at that moment. And the same in the opposite, if I'm actually really enjoying, spending time with friends or spending time with someone else, and I'm struggling against that, thinking like, oh, I should have got more done today, it's like this constant struggle, which creates, I think, this overwhelm for so many people that their to-do list is constantly like reciting itself in the back of their minds. And so to actually come down and give themselves permission to spend time with friends, or to go take a really long walk in nature on a beautiful sunny day, do you think that we can counteract that feeling of overwhelm by surrendering and learning to enter into this state of flow?
Absolutely. I mean, you're touching on many different things there, and I think I do just want to acknowledge how powerful our subconscious programming is, because we can consciously understand something like being in your flow is productive, right? But if the subconscious programming is there saying it's bad to focus on yourself, put others first, there's never enough time, there's all sorts of programs we've got that we've inherited and learned and taken on board as the truth. Then when we start aligning with flow, when we start intending to align with flow, everything that isn't aligned with flow, every belief, every circumstance in your life, every relationship that is not built, with that higher vision in mind, is going to come up for review. And I'm a big fan of setting intention and setting a vibration that you want to be your baseline. You want to be your homeostasis, if you like, for your whole being, your emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental being. And so if you set the intention to be in flow, and all of your cells are vibrating to flow, then what doesn't feel like flow is going to come up. And I've seen that so many times in life. But when you flip that around again, and you've said it already, the energy that you create through giving to yourself in a way that is filling yourself up, it changes everything else. We're in a multi-dimensional universe, and nothing is as set as we believe it is. But we are all moving out of this time where our computer, our brain, our ego has been in charge for so long that we're just like automatrons that are not really awake yet. And we come across yoga, or we come across some kind of self-development path that then opens us up, and we start self-inquiry, and we see what's in this programming and how we operate. We learn to be more mindful, to observe ourselves through meditation, seeing the questions that come up, the thoughts that come up, the beliefs that come up. And our job is just to witness and release, witness and release. And when you start to witness and release what you find, it's like each in-breath is an acceptance of what is there, and each out-breath is a letting go and a surrender of what is there, so we can realign with our highest vision, which with this conversation we're having, it's about being in flow. I would call it aligning with the divine, which is also aligning with your highest version of yourself, your highest vision of yourself, your most loving version of yourself, whatever you conceive that to be. All of these things start to bring us into the place where first you see where the mess is, where you see what isn't congruent with that. And then with that patience, that love, that acceptance, that willingness to just embrace and love up everything that seems in conflict, then this does become easier. And it is like learning a new fitness regime or a new yoga practice or a new dance. You know, when you learn to drive, you have to concentrate a lot. But with practice, it becomes easier and it becomes part of your memory, your body-mind memory. And you know, practice is what helps us to get there. But we do also have to acknowledge, as I said before, that the subconscious programming is very powerful. So being able to reprogram that, as well as being aware of your conscious time, when you are conscious of what you are thinking and what you are feeling and doing, is very important. That's where we get the real results.
And so how have you personally found this balance that I think is very difficult to find between being and doing, or how I sometimes say, like, how do you find the balance between, like, getting up early, doing your yoga practice, like getting into, you know, what you need to do for the day and feeling really productive, and balance that out with those mornings where, you know, it's raining outside and you'd really just like to sleep until 10. I mean, sometimes it's good to, you know, do both of those things. How have you found the balance of that in your life?
I do both. I do both. I mean, you know, obviously if I've got a day where I've got to go and teach, and I love teaching, I love my job, you know, I'm really grateful that I do what I do for a living. It's amazing. But sure, there are some days that I don't want to get out of bed. And if I find it's a day where I have made commitments that I can't easily change, then I will surrender to the fact that that is my commitment. And I also acknowledge that I would like to stay in bed, so I will give myself some time later in the day or the next day or as soon as I can to just be and just to lay in if I can. And so long as I've had that conversation with myself where I know, okay, I can't do this right now, but I understand that my body, my heart needs this, so I'm going to prioritize it as something to do as soon as I can. Then I've listened to myself. I've had an internal dialogue. As I said to you before, it's not about being able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. We're not living in that paradigm yet. But being able to acknowledge where there is flexibility and where there are removable objects and kind of working between the two. If I wake up and I have the opportunity to stay in bed, I mean, I think, you know, I'll freely admit Wednesday is my working from my bed office day, my boffice day. So Mondays and Tuesdays I work really hard. I spend all day. I have to travel an hour. I get back around 11 o'clock at night. It's a long day where I'm giving out a lot of energy on both the Monday and the Tuesday. So Wednesday, unless I've got an appointment first thing in the morning, I'll just let myself wake up when I'm ready. And I will get up and I'll make myself whatever drink I feel like that morning, and I will do my little connecting up to source and connecting down to the earth, and I may go back to bed for a bit. If I, you know, usually I'll work with my computer in my bedroom, and I just allow myself to listen. On the days that I have that freedom to just do things in the order I feel like doing them, I do. And that has made me so much happier because I'm not punishing myself all the time with, you must, the perfect yogi gets up at 6 a.m. and she does 2 hours of yoga and that's what makes you, well, you know what, I had to break that conditioning as well, because on whose terms am I living my life? Is it about what everyone else thinks about me, or is it about how I feel inside of myself? And there were some key changes I've made in the last few years of my life that have massively increased both synchronicity in my life, flow, the ability to enjoy every moment, even the challenging ones, and to learn something from them. And that is to give myself permission to rest. That actually I'm not just, you know, I had this belief that a worthwhile person has to work on what they believe in from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. And I was helping everyone else and denying myself. Oh, no, I don't need that. How do you feel? You know, and so many of us do this. Anyone in a caring profession, in a therapeutic profession, parents, you know, we've learned to give outwards and not to give inwards, and learning to make that switch. Even the simple question, how do I feel right now, is part of getting you back into flow, part of allowing the monkey mind, as you call it, to shut down and bring your awareness back to your heart. Because we're not always feeling fantastic. And the more that you push down when you don't feel great, the more that's going to need to come up at some point and be released. So if we can, in the moment, acknowledge and allow whatever's there to surface without trying to attack someone else with it or hurt ourselves with it, then we're allowing, again, this acceptance of the in-breath and the letting go with the out-breath. And then it's like realigning with how you want to feel. How do I like to feel? What do I want to feel? Oh, yeah. And feeling it, getting into the feeling state. You want flow? Get into feeling what flow feels like in your life. You'll notice first when you're not in flow, and then you'll start to notice when you are in flow, and, it snowballs.
And so when you were first kind of starting this process that you were in, what did you feel like was most helpful for you to be able to turn off your monkey mind?
That's a really good question. I needed to learn to be in my body, which is, I believe, why I chose the path of being a yoga teacher. My self-awareness path started as a teenager. I was 13, really, when I started to ask questions that were well beyond the capabilities of my family and community to answer. So I had different coping mechanisms back then, food, just sort of denying my emotions and suppressing them as much as possible. And as I grew into a young adult, I learned to live in a way where I was like the road runner. I was, a good meter off the ground, always sort of busy, running around from one thing to the next. And the first thing I really needed to learn to do was to ground, was actually to get in my body and to make a connection with this planet that I've chosen to be on. I've chosen to come here. I do believe that. I'm here on purpose. And I needed to learn to spread my toes and feel the connection between, my feet in the earth, whether I'm 10 stories up or I've got my bare feet on the grass. It's just allowing this gravitational force and pull to make a connection with you, and to settle into the feelings that were present within my physical vehicle. And this was quite uncomfortable to start with, because obviously there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of emotional pain and psychological and physical pain that I had to deal with. I was a very sensitive young person. And I believe our greatest gift can also be our greatest curse. So my sensitivity makes me great at what I do, when I'm working with clients. But within myself, it's very easy to get off balance. So I have to be in my body. I have to breathe. This idea of being able to bring in source energy through your body and ground it into the earth, and then pull up the earth's energy all the way through your body and send it out again to source. This has been a part of my life for a very, very, very long time, since I'm also a Reiki master as well as a yoga teacher. So when I first started to learn about energy through my late mother, and to learn about, how important it is to have your channels clear and open and grounded, that was really the first thing for me. And something that has really helped me to understand grounding is a bit like electricity. If you have an electrical current that isn't earthed, it's dangerous. And if you are opening up spiritually, you're opening up to more subtle energy, and you're bringing in more light into your body, which is what yoga does, as well as other forms of therapy and healing. If you don't ground that energy, you're just bringing more and more energy into you, and you've got nowhere to put it. So it's going to make things even more intense. It will make the monkey mind more intense. So whether you choose a physical movement practice, or whether you choose to meditate, or whether you choose just to intend to bring, your awareness down through your body into the earth, I think that is a really important place to start. And also slow down. Like when life is rushing, take slow, deep breaths. 3 deep in breaths, 3 long out breaths, a big sigh. and come into your body, like hold yourself in your alignment. We're always leaning forward into the future, or we're rounding our backs into the past. Let's bring ourselves right into right here, right now. And my mum always used to say, do everything in slow motion when you're rushing. And I didn't want to take that on for a long time. But I've learned that I can bend time. So when I slow down, things rearrange themselves. We're more powerful than we realize. That's another really important awareness, that actually a lot of what's going on out there is an internal creation. So when we accept responsibility for that, I'm not saying everything, we're co-creating. Other people are involved. Things do happen that come out of the blue, but being able to take control, for those of us who like to be in control, to have an awareness of what's inside and how we're responding inside is really important to shifting what's happening on the outside.
Yeah, that was packed with a lot of information. So I want to pick two things out of there. So the first one, I was wondering if there is a way for people to do this practice easily at home, this practice that you mentioned of pulling the earth energy up through your body and sending it out to source, and then pulling the source energy and bringing it down through your body. Is that a practice that one could do maybe in like 2 or 3 minutes, that in the morning or in the afternoon or whenever they feel like they might need it throughout the day?
Absolutely. And I need to say that I have a little video, and actually it's something I'm offering as one of the gifts for today's call, because I think it's a really simple and profound practice that sets the intention for you to be acting in accordance with your higher self throughout the day, and to come from your heart rather than from the fear-based conditioning that we all have. And yeah, I'm making that available to you and to those who would like to have it. And it is literally 3 minutes. So it's easy to do while you're putting the kettle on.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great to hear. All right, so the other one was, I would like you to expand a little bit more about this idea. You said, when I slow down, I rearrange things. Because this overwhelm that a lot of people are feeling these days is because they feel like they don't have enough time. And so it creates this pressure and this feeling of like, I need to rush more. I need to rush more because I need to do more so that I can use my time more efficiently. And in this thing that you said, when I slow down, I rearrange things, that really caught my attention.
This ties in with this idea that we are more powerful than we realize. And, time is a third dimensional construct. And, when we accept that time isn't linear, but it's our conditioning that holds it in a linear paradigm, then things are overwhelming. Let's look at this on many levels. The Earth speeding up, the frequencies the energy frequencies that are hitting the Earth are faster frequencies. We're moving out of density into light, into our light bodies, our crystalline structures. And, when we think of it like that we are in a world of information overload. Often, I don't have a television in my house, but we're kind of, even our youngsters are growing up with like the computer on and the television on and, the radio on at the same time, and we're all on our phones, and we're choosing activities that keep us locked in that paradigm that there's not enough time, and we're constantly seeking to find faster ways of doing things within that dimension, within the third dimension. And what I'm really saying is that when you slow down, it's like you're the eye of the hurricane. Even if there's chaos all around, if we align ourselves physically and energetically and emotionally and psychologically with now, with I am here now. And that is a physical thing as well, because as I said, we have postural habits that either sort of pull us backwards or pull us forwards, and that plays out in how energy moves through our body. We have a manifesting current that, I mean, Anadea Judith talks about this in The Wheels of Life, a beautiful book about energy centers, but we have energy that pours down from source through us into the earth, because we're conduits of energy. And that is the manifesting current, that as things get denser, it slows down. You have an idea, and then to make it a reality, it takes work. And then you have the current of liberation, which is from the earth, the density of the earth moving up through your body and out. And part of increasing flow and synchronicity and feeling in alignment is having physical alignment and having energetic alignment, so those currents can flow easily. And I'm bringing the breath in as an example as well, because this all ties in with what I just said, that we are, we can affect time, and we can slow down the overwhelm massively just by coming into this moment. The overwhelm is also to do with the sympathetic nervous system. I mentioned already the fight, flight, freeze response, which for most of us, it's more active than the parasympathetic nervous system response of rest and repair, where blood's going to the vital organs to, help eliminate toxins and just to nourish and nurture the cells. Most of us have learned to be running, and we're not breathing properly. We're just out of our bodies. And so when you bring yourself into the awareness of this moment and you slow everything down, you are inviting all aspects of your being to be present in one place, where you are, where your physical body is. And it's like an entrainment of all the different subtle energy layers of your being. In yoga, we know we have different, bodies. We have our pranic body, we have our emotional body, our mental body, and we know also that when we combine breath and movement, that we are synchronizing all of the systems of the body, the physical systems, the nervous system, the cardiovascular system. Well, this works beyond the physical body to also take into consideration the different layers of our energy being, our energy body, all the way out into the Merkaba field. So that's how I describe it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I think the only thing, just to close real quick, would be maybe you can just take a moment to speak to, so you mentioned, you made a metaphor here of as if I was like in the eye of the hurricane with everything else swirling around me. I find it difficult, and as you said, like I'm very energy sensitive also, and so even if I wake up and I do my own practice and I'm in a very good space, as soon as I go into a situation where like everything around me is insane, and especially if it's like, with family or people that I really care about, coworkers, if I see them all rushing around and feeling like, oh my God, everything's crazy, I have to get things done, I almost automatically feel like I need to join them, like that I need to help them so that they won't be so overwhelmed. And then I get kind of pulled into that, the actual hurricane. I get pulled out of the eye and into the actual windy part.
Yeah. The classic empath, classic empath issue, as Bo Forbes would say. And I would like to mention Birthlight at this point, because I said that one of my jobs is I'm a teacher trainer for Birthlight, for an organization called Birthlight, and we offer a course which is aimed at birth professionals, doulas, midwives, obstetricians, and it's all about how to affect labor, how to support labor to go well, and how to deal with difficult presentations of the baby's positioning or mother's emotions. And the reason I mention this is we base that program on non-verbal communication. So one of the things that we talk about, and one of the things when we're working with those who are training with us, is to actually embody and to mimic the movements and the breath style that we would like the woman in labor to be able to fall into in a rhythm. So instead of saying, oh, bend your knees, stick your bum out, we would bend our own knees, maybe wiggle our torso, our buttocks, and just free up the energy in ourselves. And because women are incredibly sensitive in labor, they kind of pick up on that through the energy field and start to sort of mimic that rhythm and those movements and the breathing style. And sometimes we may need to make some physical contact with them to be able to really support that shift, that release. And if we take this back to the example you gave, I recognize, as I said to you before, that our greatest gifts can also be our biggest obstacles, and you're talking about that right now. You're talking about being really sensitive and then falling into other people's energy patterns and their dramas. And the more grounded we are, the more we can be the change we want to see, and to keep ourselves calm. And this is something we talk to birthing partners about. You need to be able to self-care. If you find that the woman you're with is panicking, or she's not breathing very, very deeply, check in with your own breath. Are you holding your breath? Calm it down, elongate the out breath, sigh a little bit, use the ujjayi breath, get into a better state in yourself. And I have a little trick that I use, which I really cannot remember who I learnt this from. So apologies, this came from someone many years ago. But when we need to be somewhere like, say, a really busy town, and we know that we're sensitive to the vibrations of that town, it can be helpful to imagine yourself in a beam of bright white light that connects all the way up to source and all the way down to the center of the earth. And this is like a full-on spherical beam all around your physical body. So it encompasses all of your physical body, and you can take it out as far as you like. 3 feet each direction is a good amount, because that ties in with the Merkaba field again, and it just helps to just allow your energy body your reality bubble to be strengthened and to be supported. And if you're then in a place where you need to be able to be empathetic with someone, and to have your heart soft to them and to be able to respond to them, then you can do the same thing, but with a magenta pink ray. So with a magenta pink column of light around you, which just allows you to be present emotionally for others without taking on their energy. And that has really helped me over the years. And also, I have to say, Susanna's work, the emotional mental detox programming, all this subconscious reprogramming, helps us to be able to hold a frequency without having to do so much conscious work around it. And, yoga offers a lot of tools for being able to shift things in the moment, but it takes a lot longer to deal with the subconscious conditioning. And that's why you can be an accomplished yogi. You can have a very long practice and dedicated to your meditation and yoga and everything else, but you still find, like you said, that there's a sensitivity that we don't feel so in control of. And I'd say, again, that comes down to the subconscious conditioning and being able to reprogram that so that our expectation is different, and then the world mirrors that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful way to end the call, I think, that reminding me that not only can I be affected by the energies of people around me, but also I have a large effect on their energies. And so if I can actually maintain that calm and keep myself centered and grounded, that will actually help them and pull them a little bit more into my vortex. So yes, thank you so much, Rosanna. That was wonderful.
Absolutely. You're more powerful than you realize. This is said so many times, but also part of that self-care is knowing when you need to step away from a situation and say, I need to go for a walk for 10 minutes, or I need to go to the bathroom, or, it's exactly what you just said. And you can be of a frequency where they start to lift themselves up to where you are, but also to be able to reflect on yourself when you need to go and top up, however you top up your energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we all need to learn what the best way is for us to do that. Well, thank you so much, Rosie. So I'm just going to mention that Rosie is actually going to be offering 2 free gifts today. So one is the short 3-minute video that she mentioned earlier that's going to help connect source energy to Gaia energy and bring it to the heart. So that way you will be, it will be easier for you to flow throughout your day and make sure that your decisions and actions are coming from your higher self. And the other free gift is a 10-day centered self program to help you align with flow. So I'm going to put the emails, the links for those 2 free gifts into the email. So if you would like those, please go. And I'm just going to have Rosie mention real quick her website so that you can find out more about this amazing path that she's on.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Well, yeah, the website that's relating to all this wonderful work, so it's the combination of the subconscious reprogramming with the physical tools, the yoga-based tools for being able to deal with things as they come up in the moment, as your reprogramming takes place, is all on rozyglow.com, www.rozyglow.com, and that is ROZY. And my other website, where there's a lot of information again around parenting, these early influences, and how, we are shaped from our time even before we're conceived, but certainly from conception through to, the first 7 years of life, is all on enjoyyoga.com, INJOY-yoga.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And just for anyone who is maybe not used to hearing British English, the Rozy Glow is ROZYGLOW.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Rosie. And I love your accent. I just know that some people are not used to that.
No problem at all.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be in touch soon.
Thank you so much, Jody. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.